October 1997, the attention of the water skiing world was firmly fixed on the still city of Newcastle, celebrating their bicentenary and as part of the festivities, hosting the opening and closing rounds of the 10th International Ski Racing Federation's World Water Ski Racing Championships. Competitors from 10 countries converged on Newcastle, the opening ceremony the first and last official function before the team set about the task of claiming the world titles up for grabs. Could Australia's Leanne Brown create history by winning an unprecedented third world title in a row? Could the Americans halt the Aussie onslaught? Or was it going to be European dominance? It would all unfold in the next 7 days. And the first race of the 10th International World Skiing Federation World Ski Racing Championships is underway here on Newcastle Harbour, and it's Humble, it seems to be, out in front early. This is the defending champion, Leanne Brown of Australia. Up behind Humble in this first grid we have Axiom, Moonlight, 143 Hallett from the United States, Foxy from Italy and Purple Rain from the Netherlands making this first grid. The second grid will get away 20 seconds after this front grid, and that'll be Missile with Melanie Angus from New Zealand, Joanne Hamilton from Australia behind Mirage, Gilly Clemens from Great Britain behind Legless, and Laurie Dunsmore from the United States behind 191 Hallett. And then another 20 seconds to Tracy Graziano from Australia, Callie Harvey of Great Britain and Tammy Khan of the United States. Joining us in commentary is Robbie Llewellyn, former great champion of ski racing. Robbie, welcome to Australia, and we should see some absolutely fantastic skiing in this first up race.
Thanks, Mike. That's right. Of course, we've got Leanne Brown, who's already in first position, twice world champion. She's looking to make it a three-time round, and she's certainly looking as if she's in a prime position to do that. She's gone way out in front, but she's got to remember that she's got some prime competitors in the form of Joanne Hamilton, who's on second grid, and Tracy Graziano on third grid. Her observer has got to keep an eye on those boats because they're 20 and 40 seconds behind, so they've got to make sure that they don't actually make up any time on her.
Leanne Brown just going around the city boy, as we'll call it, for these particular championships, and also the field hot in pursuit. But Leanne Brown out very, very smartly from that second grid, which is now underway and will be chasing very, very hard indeed. Joanne Hamilton, as you mentioned, probably is one of those skiers that'll be right in the firing line here, as is Laurie Dunsmore from the United States, a champion skier and one with an enormous amount of experience.
That's right, Laurie Dunsmore, 40 years of age actually, and Debbie Norblad, another top competitor on the front grid, and I believe just behind Leanne Brown, she's boat number 143 in second position. This two-time world champion, she's 44 years old and doing an incredible job of keeping up with 26-year-old Leanne Brown.
And that is towing Debbie Norblad, Wayne Murray and Dusty Schultz, the driver and observer respectively. And they're just really settling into this race. Debbie Norblad, as we mentioned, a true legend, and at the opening ceremony was widely acclaimed by every athlete from every country. She was born way back there in 1953, and the first ski race that she entered was in 1963. She won the Catalina Island race last year, a time-honoured event as far as ski racing is concerned, and she won the Belgium Diamond race, and she was third in the 1995 World Championships. She was the 1991 World Champion and the 1985 World Champion. And her ambition is to win the Women's World Championship for the third time. So Debbie Norblad and Leanne Brown really looking to become that first person to win 3 World Championships. Her favourite leisure activities, water skiing and training, and she is very, very fit for a 44-year-old. 191. Now there's Laurie Dunsmore from the United States, a very, very experienced skier. Has come to Australia on many occasions, not only for World Championships, but she's run the Hawkesbury bridge to bridge on numerous occasions. And Laurie Dunsmore, one of the most experienced skiers in this field.
That's right, and as we saw, Mike, Laurie Dunsmore coming into a turn, the conditions were quite bad. She waved her crew down to slow down the pace a little bit. As soon as she was out of the turn, it was back up with the speed again. Very
tall skier at 5'11" in the old scale, born in 1957. And her occupation is a gym supervisor, a secretary, and teaches water skiing at the beginner level too. She was second in the 93 World Championships. She's won 5 Open Championships, the Catalina Island ski race, the bridge-to-bridge record holder, and second outright in the 1993 bridge-to-bridge. So Laurie Dunsmore, a very experienced skier indeed. Some great shots from our cameras here on Newcastle Harbour, as once again we go back to what we believe is our race leader, and again she's winding them up. Leanne Brown now has 1.5 straights to complete to wrap up this first race of the 10th IWSF World Championships here on Newcastle Harbour. The boat in perfect tip-top order here in this first race. Leanne Brown has skied absolutely magnificently. They have just over half a lap to complete. So they head down dockside now. And the other skiers, Debbie Norblad and Joanne Hamilton, will be spotting their position to see exactly where they are. Joanne will be trying to creep into that second position. She's just probably a skier's rope length behind the leader, Humble, who just absolutely bounced out of the water there. You can see conditions on the far side, very rough indeed. Errol Thurger hand in the air saying we've got a half a lap to go. They're coming down now to the city turn, and this has been a comprehensive performance by Leanne Brown.
This really is a promising performance by Leanne, and it really does show that she has the ability. She still has the ability to win a world title.
She's just waved them up.
Look at that, Mike. That's incredible. She's on her last leg, and she's in the lead. She's still waving them up. Tremendous skier.
Round the last corner now, she has got probably a half a mile to go, coming down to get the checkered flag. The blue flag's been waved. Here she comes now around that final turn, and then she'll have about a half a mile to go down to the checkered flag. As we've mentioned all along, a magnificent performance here by Humble, with Rick Cranbrook and Errol Thurger in the boat, and Leanne Brown the skier, and they put the foot down and head for the checkered flag. A magnificent performance. And she's waved them up with a couple hundred metres to go.
Tremendous.
How confident's that?
I think it's a little bit of excitement running there, Mike. She must be so pleased. And there she is, Leanne Brown taking the first round of the 10th World Waterski Racing Championships.
Provisional placings in the first race of the Women's World Waterski Racing Championships of 1997. Leanne Brown of Australia in first position. Debbie Norblad, the veteran from the United States, in second. And a bit of a shock in third position. Laurie Dunsmore behind 191 Hallett crept up to gain third spot in the first race of the World Championships of 97. What about the race today? Even on that last lap, you were winding him up.
I don't know, I just wanted to really show that I could do it today. I think a lot of people have doubted whether I can do it again, probably myself as well, and I just wanted to get as big a lead as I could today, just in case something goes wrong in the next three.
A psychological edge for you over Debbie and Laurie?
Yeah, I think so, probably just to show that I'm still up there. Maybe embarrass them a little bit.
3 to go, all the very best.
Yeah, 3 to go, and hopefully I'll be there. Thank you very much.
Well done. And they're racing in the second series of the 10th International World Ski Racing Championships. There's our women's race leader in Humble, nearest the camera, Leanne Brown of Australia, leading it away. And this front grid sees Leanne Brown from Australia behind Humble. Laurie Dunsmore in the second position on the grid behind 191. She's from the United States. Debbie Norblad from the United States in boat 145. Then we have Joanne Hamilton from Australia in Mirage. Tammy Kahn from the United States behind Summary Judgment, and Tracy Graziano behind the Sting. She's an Australian. From the Netherlands, Yolando Bonestru is behind Purple Rain, and rounding out the front row of the grid is Rachel Casson of Great Britain behind Robbo's. 20 seconds after this lead group getaway will be followed by the second grid. That'll be Melanie Angus of New Zealand behind Missile, Marina Caligari of Italy behind Foxy, Gilly Clements of Great Britain behind Leglers, Belgium's Tina Farina behind Axiom, and Kelly Harvey rounds out our field. She's from Great Britain behind Flatnacker. And we're seeing our series leader, Leanne Brown, in behind Humble, I should say, away to a pretty good start. Joining us in commentary, former ski racing champion from Great Britain, Robbie Llewellyn. And Robbie, vastly different conditions here on Sydney Harbour than we saw on Sunday in Newcastle.
That's quite right, Mike. We're seeing some very rough conditions here today, really testing the skiers, and we'll see speeds down a little bit compared to Newcastle the other day. But what we'll also see is a few more efforts coming from a few skiers who perhaps didn't perform as well as they expected to at Newcastle.
This is a magnificent course here on Sydney Harbour, a sensational setting to say the least. Humble now is coming up to the turn that we're going to call Vaucluse. Then they'll go down the back straight. They have about 2.5 kilometres back towards the city of Sydney in this long back straightaway. And as you can see, the conditions already very choppy indeed. Humble with a full ballast in the nose of the boat and just settling into this race. Leanne Brown, comfortable winner in Newcastle on Sunday, will be looking to make it 2 from 2. And Robbie, she's in a marvellous position here because she's got Laurie Dunsmore and also Debbie Norblad on her right, and she will be able to keep them in check. They are her main dangers.
That's right. As we can see, Leanne has already pulled out a 200-metre lead. She's got the race well in control already, but of course Debbie Norblad, Laurie Dunsmore, two very experienced ocean skiers right behind her, so she can't afford any slip-ups there, but as I say, at this stage she's got the race in control.
We are situated at Vaucluse in our commentary position, courtesy of the National Parks and Wildlife Service, and we thank everyone from that department for allowing us the best view in the house. This is absolutely magnificent as we look back towards the city of Sydney, and here's Leanne Brown behind Humble coming up to the top end, the city end, and she'll make the turn here. Not too far behind her is Mirage going very well, and that's Joanne Hamilton, the second of the Australians. Of course, team points very vital here, but Joanne will have that way in the back of her mind. She's looking to get right on the pace as Leanne Brown waves up her crew. And Leanne Brown doing it nicely. There is a panoramic view from our commentary position as you can see the boat streaming down towards the city of Sydney. That's Clark Island that you can see on the top left of your screen. They will go around Clark Island, then come back down past Elizabeth Bay, Double Bay, Point Piper and Rose Bay to Shark Island and around Vaucluse and up the back straight once again.
We can see Humble there really crashing its way through the waves, creating a nice carpet of flat water for Leanne Brown. I say flat water, it's hardly flat, but it's certainly a lot better than outside the wash. And as we can see, Leanne, waving up for more speed there. She's totally in control and looked as if she's skiing this race quite comfortably now.
So Mirage and Joanne Hamilton in second position, a 1-2 for Australia at the moment, followed by the two Americans, Debbie Norblad and Laurie Dunsmore. So it's the old Australia v USA rivalry once again at the moment.
That's right. We really have seen Australia and United States teams dominate these World Championship events ever since the very first World titles in England back in 1979. They generally tend to, it's Australia and America. Oh, look what we've got on the screen there, Mike, the Sting.
Tracy Graziano. And there's some trouble here. They're calling for help.
I hope there's not a problem with the skier there, and I hope it's just a mechanical problem, but there's certainly something wrong there, and it certainly looks as if Tracy Graziano is out of the race.
Around the city of Sydney, boys now, down past Elizabeth Bay, a little bit of a wipe of the goggles. She is that relaxed as we saw in Newcastle, and on Sunday she waved the crew up at this time of the race saying, give it a bit of a squirt to the finish.
I think in Newcastle we had some easier conditions. I say easier conditions, just calmer conditions. So I think Leanne will be a little bit more cautious here today. She knows the checkered flag and another 1,000 points is just around the corner now, but she knows the race is not quite over yet.
So our race leader just coming into shot there now, Humble and Leanne Brown. She has probably a half a mile to go to get the checkered flag. Looking very, very comfortable. In second spot will be Joanne Hamilton from Australia, and of course these positions will be provisional. There is the Sydney Showboat 2 in the background, the big paddle steamer, as Leanne Brown now comes down towards the checkered flag. This has been a marvellous performance by Leanne Brown.
She's absolutely dominated this race today, Mike, and she's really duplicated the performance which she put up in Newcastle. You can't say anything else other than she's an outstanding ski racer.
A couple of 100 metres to go for Leanne Brown now, just past the ferry. There is the checkered flag out waving for the crew of Humble and Leanne Brown as they come across the line, and it's a magnificent 1,000 points to the current world champion Leanne Brown. She makes it 2 from 2, and she'd be very, very happy to get that race under her belt and make it 2 from 2. The rest have got to chase her now, and she's got to do something untoward to miss out on her 3rd World Championship. And provisional placings in round 2 of the Women's World Championship for 1997. Leanne Brown of Australia first, Joanne Hamilton of Australia second, and in 3rd spot, Laurie Dunsmore of the United States. Botany Bay, the birthplace of a nation, and once again playing host to many international visitors in the 3rd round of the 10th IWSF World Waterski Racing Championship. This wonderful stretch of waterway could hold the key to this year's title holders, and you couldn't have asked for better conditions for the start of the women's event. Current world champion Leanne Brown had won the opening 2 rounds in Newcastle and on Sydney Harbour, and one more victory would sew up the crown. But Victoria's Joanne Hamilton had other ideas. Setting a furious pace, her tactics were simple enough. build a commanding lead and let Leanne Brown do the chasing. But ski racing can be a fickle sport, with Mirage giving up the ghost and presenting Leanne Brown with a real chance of winning. Laurie Dunsmore from the United States pushed hard. Australia's Tracy Graziano skied brilliantly but couldn't bridge the gap, and it was daylight the rest. Down the last straightaway and the checkered flag, and Leanne Brown from Sydney, appropriately on Botany Bay, wins round 3 and becomes the first person in skiing history to win 3 World Championships, and understandably, Leanne was very emotional about the victory. Leanne, first of all, congratulations. First person in history to win 3 World Champions. How does it feel?
Feels excellent. I can't believe I've done it. Everyone, Rick and Errol, everyone, Peter Ross, who owns the boat, everyone's done so much work, and hopefully I think I deserved it.
Leanne, you worked so hard for this. You were really pumped going into that Newcastle race, skied brilliantly on Sydney Harbour. Conditions became conducive as the race went on.
Yeah, definitely. Like we were a bit concerned at the start because it was so smooth, and I've got to ski with Joe next week, and we just knew how close and how hard we're going to have to go at the start of the race. And we just wanted to make sure we held her out for those first few laps while it stayed smooth, and just hope that we could hold her out until it started to rough up a bit, and that's what we did. And we got in front, and then unfortunately her boat stopped, so like bad luck to Joe, but I'm sure she'll do great in the next race.
Pretty emotional day for you.
Yeah, well, I've worked hard for it for a long time, and now I've finally done it, so now I get to celebrate.
What about Newcastle? Will you try and make it 4 out of 4?
Mothers. Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. I think I've done every race as it comes, and I'll sit down and just see how I go on Sunday, and we'll see what the team wants me to do as far as team points and what's going to be done to get Joe into second place.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It was to be a big day for Australia. And they're away in the 4th and final round of the 10th IWSF World Waterski Racing Championships here on Newcastle Harbour. Newcastle Harbour looking an absolute picture this morning, as from the right of your screen, Leanne Brown behind Humble, our overall world champion for 1997, takes off. This is the front row of the grid. On her right is Laurie Dunsmore from the United States. A little bit further out is Debbie Norblad, also from the United States. Now starting 20 seconds behind is Joanne Hamilton from Australia, who skied so well on Botany Bay, only to have mechanical problems rob her of a possible podium finish. But here is our world champion, Leanne Brown, streaking away. And I know that she wants to make it 4 races and 4 wins here today, but she's going to have some very, very strong competition from the Stillwater specialist, Joanne Hamilton of Australia. Laurie Dunsmore from America in second position, skiing well to start with too, as is Debbie Norblad. And all the big guns are away and well here on Newcastle Harbour. Joanne Hamilton 20 seconds behind in the second grid, and another 20 seconds behind the other Australian, Tracy Graziano, as this race will develop down today to be a bit of a drag race, because conditions absolutely ideal. And there is Leanne Brown, winner of the World Championship in 1993, also of 95 and 97, the first skier, male or female, to win 3 World Ski Racing Championships. And she's out here on Newcastle Harbour today to make it 4 races in 1997 for 4 wins, but she's going to have a lot of competition, as I mentioned. There is our race leader on the water as far as the start was concerned, Leanne Brown, the world champion for 1997. But here is our race leader. On the left of your screen, Joanne Hamilton really is in magnificent form. A great shot of both girls, and she's waved up. She really wants to chase Leanne Brown. She just doesn't want to finish inside the 20 seconds. She wants to catch Leanne Brown on the water. Laurie Dunsmore from the United States, a great shot of her. Also a veteran, been around for a long, long time. And you can see the gear that they wear, the big neck roll. If they do happen to come off, there's plenty of protection there. And joining us in commentary is Robbie Llewellyn. Robbie, on the water here this morning, in magnificent conditions, often referred to as boat-breaking water because it is that still. But Joanne Hamilton from Victoria is only probably 5 or 6 seconds behind Leanne Brown. She really is skiing magnificently this morning.
Yes, that's right, Mike. She really does seem to be pulling out all the stops here behind the cyclone boat today, of course. And we're probably seeing Leanne Brown under the most pressure which she's been under during these World Championships.
Well, they're going to get a very close eye in a minute, because Cyclone is dead set 100 metres behind, if that, behind Leanne Brown now. Now, Leanne's going to see the Cyclone boat come up on her right shoulders. She would be aware. She's just waved up there, so saying, come on, let's go. But Leanne Brown is about to get a bit of a rude shot, because for the first time in the championships, there it is. That is the difference. Now, the Cyclone boat, you can see there in your shot, is our race leader, starting 20 seconds behind the skier just in front, Leanne Brown. Now, how will she react here?
Well, as soon as she hears the roar of that huge Cyclone engine come up by the side of her, that'll put a little bit of pressure on her. But Leanne's a very experienced skier. As we can see, Cyclone just creeping up by the side of Leanne now. That roar of the engines is going through her ears, and she probably knows that she has to pick up the pace a little bit, but because Joanne Hamilton, she's probably half a mile an hour, maybe a quarter of a mile an hour quicker than Leanne at this stage.
So a great shot. Leanne Brown, the world champion 1993, 1995, and this year just has a look over the right shoulder, and the split dead set is 1.6 seconds is the difference between Humble and Cyclone, and the Cyclone crew going berserk.
Mike, we just saw Leanne Brown waving up there. She sees Joanne Hamilton coming past. She waves up to her crew. She doesn't want this to be happening, Mike.
Another 16 seconds back to Laurie Dunsmore on the water. She'll be just sitting there hoping that these two go hammer and tongs and something happens to give her a chance at grabbing glory here on the final day. And we're just also trying to keep a time on Tracy Graziano, who started 40 seconds behind the front grid. It'll be interesting to see how Tracy is going at the moment. But on my stopwatch, she's still well outside that time. We're coming up to 40 seconds from when Humble and Cyclone went past our finish sign here. And yes, Tracy is a fair way back, and that gap is starting to blow out. But here is our race leader on the left of your screen, Joanne Hamilton from Victoria, and they're just starting to stretch their legs. Humble won't let them get too far away.
No, that's right. We're going to see a heck of a race. Leanne Brown and of course the driver, Rick Cranbrook, doesn't want Cyclone to pull too far ahead. And at this stage, Humble does have the advantage because they've got the inside line. So they're actually taking the shorter course when it comes to the turns. But Joanne Hamilton really sort of pulling out the meters on Leanne Brown now, but as we can see, a great race going on there.
Now you would think, Robbie, that with the 4 championships already wrapped up, that Australia would be in an unassailable position as far as the team's trophy is concerned. Is that the case, or would there be a little bit of collusion out in front here?
Well, Mike, these girls, they're out there skiing for Australia, and Australia really does seem to be showing that they are the dominating nation in ski racing in the world. But those girls are skiing out there for themselves at the moment. They're the best of friends on land out there. They're just out to beat each other and show that the other is better than them.
Well, the Cyclone boat on the left is starting to really get a little bit of ascendancy here. Humble on the inside, still sitting very low in the water. Fair bit of ballast on, even though conditions here are fairly smooth. There is the boat of Debbie Norblad.
What a great shot there, boat number 143, all the way from the United States. And as you quite rightly said, Mike, a lot of skiers from overseas, they're not used to this caliber of ski racing, but it's doing them a world of good. They are learning so much from this experience in these 10th world titles. They'll go back home and they'll come back better next time.
There's the big Wells craft, a magnificent looking boat. It probably hasn't been able to be on the pace as much as they would have liked. 9.5 seconds, the gap between Joanne Hamilton and Leanne Brown. Well, you can make that 29.5 seconds because Joanne started that far behind. That's right. Leanne Brown really does have to pull out all the stops to gain back the time which Joanne Hamilton has stolen off her in this race. She's not going to take too many risks, but as I say, I'm sure Leanne doesn't want to be beaten by Joanne, and Joanne so desperate to prove that she is good enough to be up there. So there is Humble, and certainly not on the pace today. The boat of Joanne Hamilton has a very, very big lead now. It's nearly half a straightaway. Rick Cranbrook and Errol Thurger just sitting comfortably just alongside the Worldscraft, kind of pacing themselves against the 29. I'm sure when Joanne actually came up on Leanne, that Leanne was asking for more speed, and I can't believe that Leanne would have just let Joanne just come up and pass her as she has without an effort. So there could quite possibly be something wrong in the Humble outfit there. But they've done what they've needed to do. They've won the first 3 rounds, and they've already wrapped up the world titles. But there's the sting, and probably from Tracy's point of view too, not the championship that she won, and Cliffy Priest in the chair there as far as the driver is concerned. But she's found the going a bit tough. The hard thing for Tracy too is the fact that she has found on nearly every occasion she started from the back grid. So she hasn't been able to get on level terms with the top flyers at any stage in this championship.
That's right, Mike. It's a lot tougher. The skiers who start back on the grids, what they have to contend with, not just the water conditions, it's the boat wakes which the front runners actually create for them. So if you get off on the front grid, you've got a great piece of water to start your race on, and of course the back runners, they've got something else to contend with.
There's Debbie Norblad's boat, the Hallett 1-2-10. Dusty Schultz giving the signals there. Dusty Schultz is also the team manager of the United States. What would he be signalling there? That Debbie's under a little bit of pressure?
I think he's giving Debbie a bit of encouragement there, Mike. Debbie, a tremendous skier, been around for a long time. She knows what she's doing out there. She knows her limitations, and there's going to be a lot for stake in the second and third positions out there. We know that Leanne Brown has already snapped up the women's world title.
Now, I'm just wondering whether that signal from Dusty Schultz would be that Joanne Hamilton's coming and I don't want to get lapped.
Well, there's a possibility, Mike, but that's not good race thinking. They have to use their heads. Whether somebody's lapping them, that's not an issue. They've just got to forget that team. They've got to concentrate on the teams they're actually racing out there now, and be looking to pick up the points they need to get the best position possible at the end of these world titles.
Joanne Hamilton around the Stockton turn, down the back straight now, heading for home, and this has been a comprehensive performance.
She is skied just tremendously well, Mike. She's caught up on this adrenaline trip. She's still waving for up. She's got this race in the bag. All she has to do is come round one more turn. That Cyclone boat is looking after her, just as they've looked after every skier in these world titles, and I'm sure they're gonna pull her to the checkered flag today.
They've got to back up in a fairly short time with the junior boys and Robbie Penny, but this boat has been on song, as they say, all championships. We've got the brewery turn to make as they're coming up to that area now. They'll swing around there up the main straight, and it's not too far, probably half a mile at the most, to get the checkered flag, and it really will be a wonderful victory for Joanne Hamilton.
It will be, Mike, and I'm sure one person who's going to be absolutely rapt about this is Ray Hamilton. I've seen him walking up and down, a very tense look on his face, a very proud father, and I'm sure he's going to be so pleased that his daughter has achieved this victory today.
Well, this will give her an enormous amount of confidence as they come up to the World Championships in 1999. I'm sure she's going to be there, but this has been a fantastic performance by Joanne Hamilton and the crew of Cyclone. They're coming down to get the checkered flag now, and she will be absolutely ecstatic. Mixed emotions, maybe, because she knows she can compete with the very best. Probably a little bit disappointed that it didn't stay together at Botany, but she's wrapped. Joanne Hamilton over the line to win this fourth and final race in the Women's World Ski Racing Championship. And provisional placings in the fourth and final round of the Women's World Water Ski Racing Championships. Joanne Hamilton from Victoria first, Leanne Brown of New South Wales second, and Laurie Dunsmore from the United States third. As history will show, the host nation totally dominated the 10th World Water Ski Racing Championships, winning each division and the team's trophy. However, there was plenty of encouraging signs that the rest of the world is learning quickly. Overall, a great championship, touched with plenty of drama and, above all, brilliant skiing by the Aussies.
This has been another presentation of NBN's Wide World of Sports.